Howdy there, I'm Indovina. You're watching GameSpot, and today I'm joined by one Tymon, the franchise director
Yes.
of Dying Light.
Presented by PlayStation Days of Play.
And now you're here with Dying Light, the Beast.
Yep.
Before we get started, I want to say that I was able to see this game at Gamescom,
Yep.
hands off, a year ago. And now fast forward to this moment, I actually got to play the game, which is in so many ways a wink and a nod to the first game.
It is, yes, but it also has a lot of things going for itself. But yes, definitely, if you ever were a fan of the first game, you will find plenty to like in this one. Of course, the most obvious thing is the main protagonist, Kyle Crane. So he makes a return, and he makes a return in a very special, very unique state. Because if players remember, they kind of left him years ago at the end of a game called Dying Light: The Following, and he was basically in a very ambiguous state. He was leaving the quarantine city of Haran, thinking or being changed into a monster, and we are following from that. The game takes place about 13 years later, a number of years later, and now Kyle Crane escapes from a lab in which he was held captive, experimented upon, and now he's looking for revenge at the guy that actually did all of those experiments on him.
What is it like to? So now there was obviously a gap of time between the first Dying Light and Dying Light 2, and I know there's a story in of itself on how that all rattled out. But Dying Light 2 was in so many ways an evolution in combat, and you took guns out. It was melee only. But now, only a few years later, we're kind of returning to form in some way with the original protagonists and bringing back some of those mechanics from that game too. Did you always anticipate that you'd return to this? That if Dying Light 2 was not going to be a direct sequel for the main character from the first game?
I can't say this was planned in advance, but definitely the idea to go back to Kyle was kind of always close to our hearts. Like basically every person that works at Techland, our studio, is a fan of the original character, and about 50%, 60% of the team that works on Dying Light: The Beast are the people that have worked on Dying Light 1. So like there's a big community of developers inside Techland that always wanted to do that. And then after Dying Light 2, we basically decided it's time to kind of bring back Kyle again. It was a very exciting moment, not only for us, but also for our players. Like we didn't even anticipate for them to get so excited about the return of Kyle Crane. I think we underestimated the guy a little. So now when he made a return, the first trailer, which we released, as you said, at Gamescom last year, it got a phenomenal response from our players. So we just said, okay, like this is what people want, this is what players need. So we just decided to roll with it.
They want the grizzled voice of Roger Craig Smith.
They exactly want the grizzled voice of Roger Craig Smith. Like I envy the guy for having a voice like this. So like if you don't know, Roger Craig Smith is not only Kyle Crane, but he was Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed. He was Chris Redfield. He was Sonic. He was Batman.
Yeah, Sonic is always the one.
Really a multi-talented guy, and he really puts a phenomenal performance in Dying Light: The Beast. I think it's also I talked with Roger, and he I think he appreciates the opportunity that Dying Light: The Beast gives to him, because he can return to a character that he portrayed 10 years ago, and the character is changed over the years, but also Roger has changed. Roger is more experienced. He's an even better voice actor, so right now he can put all of those skills to the new version, changed version of Kyle Crane, and this is really a phenomenal voice-over performance.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Dying Light expansion you had mentioned that ended Kyle's story had two endings.
Yes.
So what?
Actually, three. One was hidden.
Oh, well, see? How do you decide on what is canon? Like, why was it this particular ending? Was the other one just too soft, too happy of a thing for Kyle to go on about?
I kind of don't want to go too deep with details on this one, because actually answering what's the canon ending of The Following was one of the dreams and questions that was happening basically all over the years from our community. So we wanted also for the Beast to answer that. So we are in a spoilers territory, and I will try to be delicate here. But like we always knew what was the canon ending, and we are following up on that canon ending that was always canon for us with Dying Light: The Beast. Players will be able to discover a lot of answers to unanswered questions from the first game, but also the second one. That's also the reason why we decided to go with a linear story for Dying Light the Beast. Dying Light 2, Stay Human had those branching narratives. For Dying Light the Beast, we just kind of say, this is the story, because we want this to be a canon story. We want Dying Light the Beast to basically be the next Dying Light game that kind of sets the universe as we envision it to be.
So obviously, Dying Light the Beast sees a transition in mechanics from Staying Human. For one, there's vehicles.
Yes.
And also, obviously, there's supernatural abilities that you now have as the Beast. But the one thing I want to talk about, because I think it's had an interesting, through line for the series so far, is guns. So Dying Light 1 had guns.
Yes, it
And
had.
from what I understand in the first game, it's like guns were not the primary, were never supposed to be the primary source. It was like when you got one, it was exciting that you got one and you wanted to hold on to it for when you got it. For Dying Light 2, you went the opposite direction.
Yes.
You went all melee, but then you eventually added guns.
Yes.
And now for Dying Light Beast, you're just like, yeah, it has guns. Like we're doing guns. What is it like to have designed, see something like Dying Light 2 that was designed for no guns, then to put something in a game that wasn't designed for that thing, then to go to Dying Light the Beast?
So your summary of the events, it very well illustrates like my allegory for it, my metaphor for it, because what I kind of keep saying, and now the GameSpot viewers will kind of hear it, so I need to stop saying it. But what I want to say is that for me, like if Dying Light and guns were on Facebook, the relationship status would be it's complicated, because it really was.
Okay.
So we had some pedigree at making shooters, FPS games. So when we were working on Dying Light 1, which was basically the pillar of the game, was melee combat-focused gameplay. We said, okay, we have gunplay experience. We did Call of Juarez before, so let's just add some guns in. We did that, but they were kind of a gimmick. They were like a joker card that you put out to maybe solve a situation, but they weren't meant to be like the actual card in your deck. Just something extra that you maybe used to cheat the game a little.
Yeah.
So when we did that, when we released that with Dying Light 1, players told us, okay, nice, but why did you even bother? We don't want those guns. So for the second one, we said, okay, they didn't want guns, so let's not have guns in the game at all. And actually, we even made a conscious decision to explain the lack of guns through lore and world building. And as soon as we have released the game, basically the first question that we got, where are the guns? So yes, it was a little scary, because we made so much effort into justifying why there are no guns, that actually bringing them back was not only a challenge on the design side, on the implementation side, animations, etc., but also actually on finding a way how we can inject the guns into a world which didn't have guns by definition. So I think for Dying Light the Beast, we're actually much smarter. We said, okay, no matter what they say and no matter what we think, players will want guns. So if we are adding guns, let's go all in. Let's make sure that the guns feel right, sound right, that the animations are cool of shooting, the behaviors of enemies, the reactions, the ragdoll from shotgun. All of that stuff basically wanted to create at the highest possible level for us. So we kind of went back to our experience with shooter games and used the power of the current technology of our own in-house engine, C engine, to make sure that they're really properly realized in the game, and also spend a lot of time balancing them against melee weapons. So right now, they basically became the actual card in your deck. You see a situation in front of you, there's a group of zombies and a group of human enemies. Maybe they protect some kind of a chest, something valuable that you want to get, and now it's up to you. Do you want to go in using guns, maybe melee weapons, maybe use stealth, maybe use parkour to just grab the stuff and run away? We're basically just expanding the numbers of tools that you have at your disposal.
I mean, I will say it is with good intention that you felt like you were listening to the players,
Yes.
right? That you were trying to understand what
Yes,
they wanted,
yes,
trying
yes,
to figure
yes.
out the best approach for it. Having gotten hands-on with the game, I will say even in that small, I want to say I played the game for maybe about 45 minutes to an hour.
45 minutes, yes.
And in that time, it's the guns did feel good, and
Thank you.
also you introduced new enemy types.
Yep.
That basically I don't think you would be able to get through it without guns. But it never felt like that was there's still that risk reward, right? Even if you're in a situation where you're out in the world and you're surrounded around zombies, shooting a gun is a bad idea. You know, it's
Yes,
like you're going
that's
to be
true.
having zombies.
Unless you have lots of ammo, and actually this is an opportunity that we also give to our players, that if you want to choose, like if you prefer to use guns, if that's your preferred play style, then we also tell you, okay, it's your call. Like there's a risk and reward to using guns. You will need lots of ammo, so like there are places in the world where you can get ammo, though there's usually a challenge that kind of you need to overcome to get it. But then if you get it, then basically you can play the game almost like a shooter. Though, like this is not what we recommend. We recommend actually using all of the tools, everything that's in your arsenal to survive, to see the next day, to achieve the ultimate goal of taking revenge on Baron.
Yeah, and the demo showed it. Like the demo opened up with a new kind of European style setting, which looked beautiful. And I understand the team is like really trying to elevate, you know, the parkouring, because like the community and the players from Dying Light 2 have been doing ridiculous, you know, parkour sort of stints and runs and through that environment. It feels like this game is doing that in a way where you're trying to create an environment that does not use yellow paint, and that you're like, even for me, I was like, I ran off onto a building. I was like, can I actually grab onto this? And like, I could grab like onto any single part of it. It was really this like.
That's Dying Light 4, yeah, exactly. The freedom to go anywhere, climb anything, was always like a motto, I would say a definition of a Dying Light experience. But actually with this map, with this new region, with this new open world region called Castor Woods, we challenged ourselves a little. It wasn't that obvious that we would go there, because all of our previous games, they were based in cities. And cities, like the architecture, it lends itself very well to parkour. It supports that. For Castor Woods, where there's lots of nature, forests, national parks, swamps, this is not a very natural environment for parkour, and we actually allowed ourselves to have spaces in the world where you don't parkour. But on the other hand, where there are places in the world on the map where parkour is kind of supported, we really again went all in. And for example, the town in which the demo starts, the direction that our level designers got for this part of the map was basically make it a parkour paradise, make it a place that if you want to do parkour, you can do all of the crazy stuff that our players are doing. And by the way, much respect to everyone who puts out YouTube videos of crazy parkour runs in Dying Light games, because they look super real, and like some of the kind of combinations and ideas those players have are basically things that we didn't even imagine when we were working on the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was like in the demo, it like started from doing parkour, and then I had discovered you could, after you kill something, you can like cover yourself in their blood, so then you can disguise yourself in it. So while I was like parkouring on top of roofs, I was like, well, I could just go into this crowd of zombies, skibbity-bop my way through that, and then it was like fed into a really nice stealth section, and then there was like bow and arrows, and then you had machine guns, and then you had shotguns, and then all of a sudden I was fighting a giant beast, and there was like, over that 45 minutes, and even drove a car, which I ran over many zombies. There was this very clear sort of idea of like, this game was a culmination of, I felt like what you've been trying to do with Dying Light over this franchise with the past 2 games, but like honing it in, listening to people. I mean, of course, it was only a sliver, but I'm excited to see more of it, play more of it. It seems like you take feedback seriously, is what I'm trying to say. It seems like you've learned.
Absolutely.
So going from Dying Light 2 to The Beast.
Yep.
What is the biggest learning lesson?
Well, a lot. As you said, like I think we pride ourselves at Techland to being the developer that really tries to listen to the community. And like, I understand, like every developer says that, but for us, I think that the biggest kind of understanding was when we realized that when we release a game, it's not our game anymore. It's a game that is basically shared with our community, with millions of players out there. And actually, there's 50 million stakeholders of our game, because that's how many players have played Dying Light games so far. And we really kind of need to respect their voice and listen to that. And going back to your question, I think for Dying Light the Beast, there's a number of things that we have kind of learned or kind of got some inspiration or learnings from. But I think the most important one is making the nights scary as possible. So,
I have to bleep out swear word.
I just don't know if I can say that, but we really wanted to make the night experience like even more scarier and even more horror-ish than it was in the first game. Why? Because in the second game, we actually decided to make the nights a little bit more accessible. We thought that maybe this is what will get more players into the game. And it kind of worked, because Dying Light 2 Stay Human was a very successful game commercially, but our hardcore community, our players told us that, you know what, you kind of lost the magic, you lost the mojo of Dying Light. You kind of forgot what makes Dying Light. So we definitely learned a lot about what makes Dying Light from our players. And I think, again, the core thing is the night experience. The night needs to be dark, the volatiles need to be there, they need to be really scary, like making kind of disturbing noises, circling around you, having those erratic movements that you see a volatile our Kings of the Night, the apex predators patrolling, but suddenly he does something kind of twitchy, changes the direction, which kind of adds to your heightened senses and to your focus to what's happening around you. The flashlight, it needs to have inertia, so when you move around, like the cone over it is kind of, there's a little sway. So it kind of, you want it to be there, but it's not there yet. It's still there. So when it gets there, you suddenly see a zombie and it scares you. So really, I think we did a lot with the horror night experience of Dying Light. We also, what we discovered, I would say by surprise. It wasn't planned from the beginning. The new environment, especially with the forest, but with like lots of open spaces, nature spaces, it adds to the experience as well. Because like, for example, in the forest, like you look around with your flashlight with the sway, and suddenly you see like there were trees, and there is a zombie between the trees. And this is like a very kind of classic horror movie jump scare moment. And we actually even kind of playing it smart. We are using some kind of under the hood spawning rules which actually create those moments for you. So yes, I really do hope, guys, that when you get to play the game in August, it will scare you. It will scare you shitless. Can I say that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're PG-13. You'll allow that.
Okay, good.
You've done great up until you were perfect up to this point. We're talking about a game that has zombies. You're covering yourself.
Yeah, okay. So
It's
apologies.
okay.
Apologies.
It's okay. That brings it to a close. But seriously, Tymon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's been
Great
awesome. I was
conversation.
really excited. I'm Kurt. This is Tymon. Dying Light, The Beast.
August 22nd on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X.
You'll be able to soothe your way to Roger Craig Smith's voice of
Play with
vengeance.
your headphones on.
That crispy thing he does, and then you can remind yourself, this guy's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. And with that, thanks for watching.